Hello interwebs, welcome to Let's Fix Computers. I've got an Xbox wireless controller here. I think this is one of the more modern ones because it's got the share button on it. So I think this is from a Xbox One X or One S. Not sure if it's from a series or not, but don't know my Xboxes that well if I'm honest. Anyway, it has stick drift. So we're going to replace the analog sticks on it. I've got a couple of new sticks here, which I bought from eBay. These are apparently a new design, so not sure if I got the right thing or not, but I'm sure they'll be fine. Anything is better than something that already has drift. So yeah, the sticks themselves, fairly simple design. They've got a couple of potentiometers on them for the X and Y. Then the press down is actually just a tactile button there, literally just mounted into the frame. And the rest of it is just the spring mechanism that allows it to recenter from any angle. So yeah, quite interesting. So the first thing we've got to do is disassemble this. I have taken apart an Xbox controller before, but it's been a hot minute, so I might look a little bit jank doing this. We've got to start out by taking off these side bits, and that's going to reveal screws, which actually get us into the device. So I'm going to get a little bit vicious with this guy and see if we can get this side panel off. Oh, there's going to be some unpleasant plastic noises. Okay, let me grab a second prying tool just so I can pry from multiple points. There we go. I think we're making progress. That looks good. Oh, we've got two of these. Once I've got one off and I can actually see how the clips work, I should be able to make less of a meal of the second one. Oh, okay, there we go, we're off. Oh, wow. Yeah, no, there's no easy way around that. Those clips just grip in all directions. So yeah, mercifully, I didn't break any of them. I'm actually surprised. I thought I was going to break at least one of them then. And that's a thing that happens when you're taking apart plastics. Sometimes you will break clips. And there are people who'll be like, oh, you've got to use a plastic spudger. And I'm like, plastic spudgers don't stop you from breaking clips. That just happens when you're going in blind. Now, I'm not saying that you break clips all the time. However, breaking one or two, it will happen. And yeah, either way, we've got that off, no broken clips, and now you can see we've exposed screws. So I'll get the other one off as well, and then we can proceed. Oh, this one's going much easier. Ugh. Whoops. Whoop. There we go. There's our two bits off. So we've got some Torx heads in there now. Oh, those are security Torx. That's gross. All right. What are you then? So these are security Torx 8. Now, I have security Torx bits, so that's not a big deal for me. But pro tip, if you don't have security Torx, you can often just jam a flathead in there, and it will either get enough purchase to turn the screw. So in other cases, if you stick a flathead screwdriver into a security Torx bit, I have seen before on low quality screws, you can just snap the center post off of the screw, and then it becomes just a regular Torx screw. So, in fact, I think that's what I've just done on this one. Yeah, I've just mangled the little post in the center of the screw there. So now I can stick in a T8 and it comes right out. So no, I tell you what, I'm going to cheat. I have got iFixit open at the moment as a reference for the disassembly, so I'm going to... there's a hidden screw underneath the label. That's what I've missed. That's why it doesn't feel right. All right, you are around there somewhere. There we go. That's more like it. Right, that's our two front and back covers off. So incidentally, if you want to make a custom controller, those are your two covers off. Now's a rad time to do a spray paint job on these. You could just rattle can them with a cool color if you wanted to. Right, so we've got our two vibration motors there, and we've got the triggers there as well. You can see there's more vibration motors in the triggers, which is how they get that haptic feedback on the triggers, which is really cool. This is one of the main reasons why I recommend having, if you're a PC gamer and you want a gamepad, just buy an Xbox controller. You know, whether you get a basic one like this one or the Xbox or the Microsoft Elite controller, which is totally worth every penny in my opinion. These feedbacks in the triggers are it just feels so much nicer than third-party controllers do. Third-party controllers are cheap. The PDP ones are all right, but there's nothing that's quite the same as a proper original controller. Very cool. All right, so you can see the analog sticks are on this back. Well, how's that? Where's the other one? Yeah, they're both on this board here, so we need to get this guy out. So I'm going to need to desolder a few connections. We're going to need to take off these solder wires here. These two antenna connections, I guess, are going onto this mod board. So those will just pop off, and then I think the board will come out. We've got a couple of screws there as well. All right, let's fire up the soldering iron and take off those spot points first. All right. I'm going to use a TSKU tip for this, which I've got in my D60 soldering iron. I've got a couple of these electronic soldering irons on my bench, and I have a different tip in each one. So when I need a different tip, I just pick up a different iron. But obviously all the tips are interchangeable. I'm using this one because it's got a nice point on it, so it's good for just getting to these little wire connections here. And I'll tell you what else I'm going to do while the iron heats. I'm just going to take a picture of the back of the controller so I can see how the connections were done. Obviously I'm making a video recording of this that I could refer to, but a picture is always easier. And now I think we're stepping down to a T6 for these internal screws. Right, that's done. What's holding me up now? Right, you can see we've got a board interconnect down there. I think that's a connector, so I think this just needs a bit of a pry. So I'm going to stick my prying tool under there and just gently... There we go. That's just popped that out. And are we good to go? Oh, the audio port just fell off. Yeah, that's held in with push pins because this guy's surprisingly replaceable. Inexplicably, this guy's just not soldered in. I remember that being a thing, which makes these devices remarkably repairable in a weird way. But it's just that. Right, how do we get past this? I'm held up behind the triggers at the moment. I think I've just got to finagle this around. There we go. So there's the connector that is the board interconnect. And this doesn't, this guy, if you're pulling up from the sides, the board is going to bend as you try and lift it. But if you get a prying tool just under there and just go, oop, that's just going to pop right off. So no force required there. All right, so, oh, it looks like I probably could have pulled the actual sticks off as well. All right. So we're down to the board. So here are our old things. Oh wow, look at that. Is that normal behavior? Yeah, they do get stuck at the end of their range anyway, I think. I don't know what a worn out stick looks like, if I'm honest, so your guess is as good as mine. Right. Anyway, we've got to desolder these guys. So there's a couple of ways we could approach this. I might be able to use hot air with a big nozzle if I clamped this up and hot air and just used a hot air station with a large nozzle on just to warm this entire area and just desolder all of those pins at the same time. However, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my desoldering gun out and I'm going to see if I can desoldering gun those. Might be able to solder wick all the holes dry as well, but this one looks like it's going to be a challenge. Either way, I'm going to get this guy viced up. Right, please forgive this Dutch angle. It's the one that I've chosen. So we're going to desoldering gun these. And before I get started, I'm going to wet all of the joins with fresh solder. And this will make them easy to work with because this will all be unleaded solder in there at the moment. Lead-free solder, which is harder to work with. And also just because it's old solder as well. So if we just touch up all of these joins with some fresh solder and just flow some new metal into that, it will just make all of them a little bit easier to work on. So I'm just going to keep adding fresh solder and just keep cleaning my iron periodically. And this means that when I go in with the desoldering gun, they should fight me less. I could probably use some flux here as well, but I think that's probably getting a bit overkill. We're not particularly worried about the finish on these. I just want to see them flow. In a way, we're also preheating a bit. We've just put some heat into these pins. Right, that should do. Let's give it a whirl. So the desoldering gun I'm using is my Gauzy S993A. I've used this a couple of times in a couple of videos. Desoldering guns can be a bit hit and miss. When they're on big, thick, heavy boards, they tend to be less effective. On smaller boards, they can be your best friend. So let's see how this goes. I'm just going to heat the joint with the tip so it's molten. Then go over it. Make sure we're centered and heated. And suck. Okay, that didn't seem to get me very far. I'm going to give a bit more heat into this guy. Make another attempt. Okay. Not sure how effective this is, if I'm honest. Let's add some extra solder here, so we can get a nice seal over the top of it. Well, it's pulling out a lot, but not all. So I don't know how well this is going to work. I'm going to try and go over all of these joins first to see how much we can get out and just see how far that gets me. So here's the fast forwardy bit. That one came up clean. Okay, I think we're struggling with these ones because, ow, I just burnt myself. I think we're struggling with these ones because they're on a ground plane. These ones that are not on the ground plane, those came up clear straight away. The anchor points are going to fight me because I can't. The nozzle's too small to get over those. Alright, that's not a bad start. So as you can see here, the holes that are not ground pins, those actually cleared up really nicely with the desoldering gun. So we've given ourselves a good start here by getting a lot of them clear. And remember, like, I'm anticipating that I might need the hot air gun to finish this off. So the more I can remove, the more holes that are clear in advance, the less have to be flowing with the hot air. And that means that it's going to be easier and require less hot air to get out. So although I didn't get a success on all the pins, if I can get it down to just the anchor pins, that just immediately makes my life easier. So I'm going to go in, I'm just going to quickly try a little bit of solder wick and flux. Now, my solder wick is really bad. I need to get some good stuff because the stuff I have is bad and doesn't work very well. But I'm going to try anyway, just to see how we do. I will apply some flux to these treble joins. And just see if I can do anything with that. I don't think I'm pulling anything out of that hole. Let's try an anchor hole. It's helping, but it's not going to make it free. Right, okay. I think I'm going to go for the hot air. So I'm going to change my clamping position now. Now, for this bit, previously I was just clamped around this flat area of the board. So I wasn't clamping too hard because I was clamping on top of this. So I just had it in there just enough to hold everything in place. Now I want to apply force to things. So I'm going to move around and clamp on the actual stick itself. And then we're going to pull the board off of the stick. Alright, here goes nothing. I'm making this up as I go along. So I'm going to go in with my standard 7 or 8mm nozzle, which might be too big. And I'm going maximum airflow at 400 degrees C. And let's just start heating. I'm going to try and point away from this area. And I'm just going to warm the entire area because we need to get all of these anchor points to flow at the same time. It's on its way. It moved. There we go. Whew. All right, that's not too bad. So that was a little bit nerve-wracking because I was, where I was having to hold the board at a distance because of the heat, I was stressing this area here quite a lot, which is bad. Shouldn't do that. However, I was going for a tactical. That was a tactical stress. Some experience will tell you what boards can handle, and yeah, I believe this board can handle that. So that seemed to come off. The main thing is we weren't going for a rip or anything like that. I was just gently flexing, just giving it a little bit of a nudge to see if it moves. If you're needing to use force, it's not ready. When it's ready, it'll just let go. And if it's not just letting go, then it's not ready. And if you're not getting to that point where it's just letting go, then something is wrong. You're not heating it evenly or enough or something like that. So that means you might need more heat, more airflow, or I could have switched to a larger nozzle so I was covering a larger area at the same time, something like that. either way, that guy seems to have come off. And we've got fairly clear holes there, which is good as well. All right, so let's see. Am I going to put on the new one yet? No, I'm going to go. We're going to go for everything. So let's do the same procedure with this one. I think for this one, I'm going to try and just hot air it clear off the board just in one go and see how that fares. So I will reflow these joints like I did because that always helps. And I will reflow the joints, and then I think I'm just going to go straight for the hot air and skip the desoldering gun. The desoldering gun definitely helped though, so you know, if I struggle, we'll come back to that again. Whoops. Don't like that grip. I can't find a spot where I can hold the board. This is getting very hot. I don't think I'm going to be able to get all of these at the same time. Nope, I'm bottling out. That might have been doable if I had a strategy to be able to hold onto the board and pull. I don't have a strategy for that. So I'm going to get the desoldering gun back out and we're going to get rid of the worst so we've got fewer joins to flow at the same time. All right. It's almost there. There are areas that are moving, just not all of it at the same time. There we go, it's ready. Whew. There's our old one. They're made by Alps. The action on these does feel nicer. These don't have any brand name on them. I don't know if I've bought cheap ones or not, if I'm honest, but they feel very nice. And they don't stick on the end of their travel. So, let's start out with this one. Let's just see if I could just press the new stick directly into that. These guys came just loose in a packet, so the legs aren't very straight, so I'm probably going to need to give it some guidance. I'll pull the camera out a little bit while I fumble. There we go. I was a bit naughty then and used a bit of force, but I knew that it was only a tiny little bit of solder left in those holes. Good. That guy's in. That's ready to be soldered. That is flat on the board. We've got a nice big edge around the stick press button there that allows me to see that it's flat on the board. Yeah, I'm happy with that. That one's good to go. This guy, one of the anchor holes, it isn't clear, and that anchor hole is too big to force, so that's definitely going to need a little bit of work. So let's vice this up and see what we can do with that. Again, I'm being very gentle when I vice it in this way. I'm not graunching it tight, we're just gripping it. Hand grip. Okay, so I'll feed in some solder here. which I know fills the hole again, but it also gets the heat down into the hole, which is what we need. There we go. When they work, man. No, we're still being held up here. I think it's the other anchor hole. Possibly these guys. I'm going to go over all of these holes. There's no point in messing around. I have a method that works here. Yes. 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 That definitely got it. Alright, there we go. We should be able to drop in now. Yeah. A little bit of a shove. That's on. That's flat. We are golden. Excellent. Now we've just got to solder all these on. So again, I'll just drop into here because we don't need to apply any force to anything now. And now I can just go around and just flow fresh solder into all of these. Alright, here we go. So we'll start with the anchor points. And I'm just lingering on this joint to make sure it flows all the way through that hole. And we'll get the opposite side. Right, it's two nice big solder blobs. Now let's go around and do the others. And again, it's important to linger here because if you take away the soldering iron the moment you've got a blob of solder on there, what will likely happen is you'll have just a cap of solder, but it hasn't actually gone through the hole. And that will give you a dry joint that will most likely fail. And because these joins endure a lot of mechanical stress, because in the heat of gaming, you've got someone who's literally smashing these thumbsticks left and right, we do want to make sure that we've got really good joins here. And what you'll sometimes see when doing joins like this is initially you'll flow a bunch of solder on and it'll be sitting at the top, and then after you've lingered for a few moments you'll suddenly see it go into the hole. And that's good. That's the golden moment where the via has actually heated and is then wicking up that solder you've placed above the top of it. There we go. Now I'll just go over all of those joins again. And that is one attached thumbstick, and you can just see at the base of those pins there where the solder has flowed up through the pin. So that's good. That's a nice solid connection. That guy ain't coming off. Let's do the same on the top one. Now I'll just spray some IPA onto a toothbrush and just use this just to scrub away the flux residue. I don't want to drown this because I don't want IPA to get into the stick itself because it'll wash away the... I don't want to wash away the lubricant that will be in the stick. There we go. That's good enough. There's a few marks there, but, you know, there often will be. You can always look at something and tell when it's been hand soldered. So, now we've got 2 new sticks fitted, it's just time to reassemble this thing and then we can test it out. Now I can look at my reference picture to see how these wires were in. So, we've got negative at the bottom, positive, and then I'll call that grey stripe the positive as well. It probably isn't, but I'll pretend it is. We've got blacks at the bottom, colours at the top. And it is the same on the other side. Black at the bottom, colours at the top. Oh, heck. I forgot to put the thing back in. Okay. That's not a disaster. We can do this without desoldering these wires. I was doing so well. So this guy should slot into place, and there should be a locator, a plastic pin that just locates this into place. That didn't go very well. Let's try that again. Yeah, so on the bottom, there's a plastic pin sticking up there. There you go. You can see that guy sticking out. That peg goes through a hole in the board, and that's how we know when it's in place. So because I'm doing this in situ, I won't be able to show you it very well. However, that's how I'm going to know that it's in position. Right, let's do a quick look around the desk. I haven't left any other parts out. The only things we've got are the casing and the case screws. So on we go. How does this guy fit on? Oh, there we go. That just needed a little bit of poking. I think that's good. Screws in. I'm committing. And time for a button test. So left stick looks good. Left stick activated. Right stick activated. Trigger, trigger, bumper, bumper. X, Y, B, A. Menu, menu, start, whatever. D-pad. Excellent. Abuse. Lots of abuse. Hammer the buttons. Make sure they don't break after 30 seconds. Good. That's a fixed controller. Excellent. Now I'll just stick these back on and we're done. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Yum, yum, yum. So that's us done. So yeah, that is all fixed now. I'm quite happy with the result of that. Is this a viable repair? I'm not convinced personally. If you're really practiced at doing this, you could probably whip these out and replace them in, you know, half an hour or so. There's probably some console techs out there that can do this lickety-split. and for them it's probably worthwhile. I don't think this is a service that I'm going to offer as a standing service, just because like this has taken me like an hour and a half to do, which is not really viable for the amount of money that I'll be able to charge for this. However, it was an interesting experience, and it's very good solder practice to deal with a complicated device like that. So I hope you guys found that interesting. Or failing that, if you're working on your own, maybe at some point you can probably buy like some really flashy ones, or if this was like an Xbox Elite or something like that, which is going to be different on the inside, but the concepts are going to be pretty similar, I'd imagine. So yeah, food for thought. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time. Bye for now.